Hey everybody, Questwise here, and today I want to talk about something I'm very excited about. It's a Kickstarter RPG that I just backed a while back, and it was one of those quick Kickstarters. It was like 24 hours or 48-hour kind of Kickstarter thing. I just want to talk about how unique and awesome it is, and how much I think that we are sort of living in an era of like a golden age of role-playing games, as it were, right now. The popularity of role-playing games is extremely high. There's an article I read a while back that said that D&D 5th edition, D&D as a whole, is doing better now than it ever has, even at its peak in sort of the 80s. And with that, today there are so many great designers that are smaller, independent publishers that are cranking out stuff that is very unique and very exciting to play. And the one I want to talk about today is called, it's a game by J. Harper Rosetree and Doug Levandowski. And if Doug Levandowski sounds familiar, it's because he was one of the fellows that worked on Kids on Bikes, the RPG, as well too. But this game is called In Name Only. It's a short. It's not fully completely out yet. The backers got an early copy to play over and look at. It's currently at 14 pages long, but it is a rules light RPG that's very, very interesting to me because it has some unique mechanics which we'll get to, and it also is it tugs at a part of fiction and role playing that's very, very dear to me, and that would be, like, I call it visitation fiction, or at least that's what it's called in the fiction book selling world as well too. Visitation fiction, where a character goes from their normal homeland into a place that's foreign and different to them. So, for instance, if you think of cartoon wise, think of the Dungeons and Dragons cartoon of the 80s, right? Where the kids sort of go on this roller coaster ride and they end up in the Dungeons and Dragons world. Other fiction like that could be Edgar Rice Burroughs' A Princess of Mars, which, in that we see a fellow who falls asleep here on Earth and wakes up on Mars, and he's in a completely different environment than he originally was. So there's that idea of sort of exploration and facing the unknown and such as well too, which they capture in this game as well. What makes this game super unique is that your abilities in this game come from your own personal name. So you take your name as a player, and for each letter of your name, you are given a trait that applies to your character. Now, while you can use anybody's name that you wanted to, it is really, really fun to use your own name. What's interesting and how this game balances out itself a little bit is that people with shorter names get a bigger bonus for having less letters in their name. So, for instance, my name is Jody, and I have 5 letters in my name. But if I were playing with somebody named Tim or Al, they're going to have a shorter name, but they're going to get bigger benefits to their traits, to their abilities, because their name is shorter. For me, having a longer name, I will have more traits, but less power in each one of them. It makes very unique characters, and in that you could have the ability to be very versatile. So things like you might have the ability to attack and fight, but you might also have some sort of magical ability as well too. It's a very rules light system, and it's meant to be very narratively driven. The other thing that's really interesting too about the talents and the traits that you get from your name is that they're not set in stone. And because this game is meant to be a very narratively sort of rules light driven kind of game, you could create your own trait or ability for each letter of your name. It doesn't have to necessarily be this. And I think that's really an interesting concept to this game, and it makes it very, very fluid, and can make it a much more narratively driven game around the table as well too. So just for a little bit of a sneak peek, we'll use the first 2 letters of my name, okay? Because I want to give these all away because they're really, really awesome, and I really want you to check this out when it actually hits the public, which it will soon. From what I understand, it will be available to the public. at some date, as soon as the Kickstarter backers actually get their full PDF for this as well too. So for my first letter, it's Jody, right? So you get a J. So my ability is jumping, the ability to propel oneself through the air over short distances with grace. So there's my first trait. I'm very apt at jumping. I'm very agile when it comes to jumping. Let's go to O. Oversized weapons. Effective use of two-handed or cumbersome weapons. So instantly we're starting to see sort of this cool sort of this mechanic card to come to play. My character now has the ability to jump gracefully over distances, and I now have the ability to use like two-handed weapons or oversized weapons. So you're starting to kind of already envision this character, as it were. And there's again a lot more. You use the rest of my name to fill out these things. If you happen to have a name that has, say, your name was Alan, and you had two L's, ALLEN or AN, however it's spelled. If you come to a point where you have two of the same letter in your name, you simply skip it, and then you sort of narrow it down, and you get the extra benefit of having lesser letters and stuff as well too. The setting in this is, again, they give you a sort of like short, crunchy sort of setting, or the reason how you got to be in this other fantasy world and whatnot. But again, it's very fluid, very flexible. You could use any kind of system that you wanted to do. If you wanted to use the traditional idea of being on a roller coaster and going to a foreign world, or if you wanted to use the Edgar Rice Burroughs Princess of Mars idea of sort of just falling asleep and waking up. However it is that you want to sort of envision that transference, they do give you one to start here as well too, as well as an introductory scenario. I just wanted to share this game with you today and this idea, and I wanted you to go out and get a copy of this for yourself, because again, it's going to be a fairly cheap game to pick up. It's going to be something that is quick and easy to play. It's going to be one of those things where you can make a character in literally a few minutes. So this would be great for sort of filler RPG at a convention, or if you're at some place and someone says they want to play an RPG and they want you to teach them how to play, or however the situation plays itself out. You can pull this out really quickly, and boom, you're ready to play in just a few minutes. It does take a lot of imagination, a lot of improv, unless you really want to sit down and sort of flesh out the world, as it were, and some of the creatures and whatever you're going to face adversities. But a very, very fun game, a very, very great idea. And that's what I love about like the current state of the world of RPGs today, is that we can see people like the small publishing companies, independent publishers, cranking out stuff that is unique and is different, but still fits within our hobby of telling stories and role-playing at a tabletop game. So that is In Name Only by Doug Levandowski and J. Harper Rosetree. Go check it out. It should be available soon to the public, and tell them Questwise sent you. So until next time, I'm out.